One more time. Let me do it again. Alright. So this is, we're recording two songs. One's called Tom Foundry, one called Eloisa's Revenge. They're both older tunes. It's going to be probably 8 songs total on this album that we're just starting up. So yeah, it's sort of a follow-up to our last one. Just more Cousin Dud rock songs about Illinois. Oh, Persephone, won't you please come home? The Grateful Dead was a big influence on me, sort of their folkier storytelling stuff. Bruce Springsteen. I like Courtney Barnett. I don't know if you know her. She's around now. The Hold Steady, stuff like that.
Matt is the primary songwriter, and it's a cool thing for me because a lot of times I get to kind of just learn the songs, you know, and he brings them in and they're done, you know.
I'll have the music first, and then I fit the lyrics to it. So I'll get and you know, like for a while I could be stuck and I'll have this part I've been kicking around for months, but then one day I'll get the melody down and then everything seems to click, and then as soon as I'm in that mode, I'll finish the song while I'm there. I won't leave it alone. But no, it usually starts with the music and a general idea or a character or something, and put them in a situation and see what they do.
Just go home, clear the foam from his throat, and if you don't seem allergic, just ring him out and hang him upside down.
No, actually when we started, it was sort of an anti-band, whereas we didn't want the band. Like there's a lot of songs that we played then that we don't even play anymore because we've kind of developed a new sound, but yeah, you know, we didn't have any plans to do it originally. It just kind of naturally progressed to where it's at now. I just don't want to hear it naked.
I wouldn't want to hear it closed either.
Check. I can barely hear myself.
You know, I had a real active interest in the music they were making, and I remember going to Matt a few times like, hey man, I love these new songs. It's great that you're finally taking that role as a songwriter. And kind of saying, you know, hey, like maybe I can learn some banjo or maybe I can do this. Because they were originally, I think, envisioning it as this kind of caravan, carnivalesque thing where there was going to be a lot going on and it was going to keep growing and building.
It's funny, it really did start as kind of a folk outfit, and all of a sudden now I think it's fully kind of a rock band. There's a lot of trading guitar solos, and there's a lot more room to rock these days, you know?
At a certain point, Matt and I believe Josh, like they all kind of came to me and said like, hey, like you're the bassist. And I was like, I have never played a bass, because I only really played kind of finger-picking, folky stuff on guitars, acoustics, you know. And I was like, I don't really know much about melody and leads and bass lines, and they're like, well, it doesn't matter. You're the guy for the job. We want you in. They basically told me, get a bass, start recording, and then learn how to play. So I did it in that order. I think I recorded a couple tracks before I even knew how to play the instrument.
What?
We're doing Foundry first, right?
Sure.
Okay, that's what I'm tuned for here. Let me tune up, and then we can do whatever you want.
Oh, that's what I'm tuned for.
Well, that's what I'm dialed in for, I should say. Sorry, jerks.
I've known Josh Burns, since we were in first grade, and we were best buds since first grade all the way through elementary school, junior high, high school, always hanging out. Matt I've known too, since, you know, we all grew up in Woodstock. But the day they announced that their drummer was quitting, I actually ran into Josh. Like, it was that day. You know, I see them here and there, but not too often. And it just happens that day I ran into them and told me they needed a drummer. So I'm like, let me think about it. You know, I'm married, I got a wife, I got kids and stuff, so it's kind of harder, you know. Lo and behold, like I said, that day I ran into Josh and they needed a drummer, and it's like, it was fate, you know.
We started off with no drummer, and then we got a drummer. Ben was our first. And yeah, he was great, but then he moved out to Alaska, and we had to fill his role, and we got Caesar.
You know, Ben's style of drumming is different than Caesar's style of drumming. Each one of them has their strengths, but we have to then play to those strengths. So, you know, Caesar can play like a metronome. I mean, he can just keep it steady and right on, whereas Ben had a lot of flourish and a lot of crazy, you know, like an octopus, you know. So a lot of the newer songs became a little more beat driven, a little more rhythm driven. And I think that, you know, that's been a really good thing, but they're a different style of song.
I don't know, I've always kind of had this, you know, chill style, you know. I've never really been a crazy, you know, drummer, you know what I'm saying? It's just always been, and it just seems like this band just fits the bill, you know, just kind of all clicked, I feel.
Ben was kind of a prog rock drummer, whereas Caesar comes from more of a straight rock, a little bit of a Latin flair. And so there's a little bit of a difference there. We kind of just threw a bunch of songs at him and expected him to learn them, and he did.
It's been different because I mostly always played in Spanish bands. You know, we played Spanish music, and it was all cover songs. You know, Cousin Dud is different because it's all originals. I mean, you know, I had to learn everything that I already had, you know, or whatever, and it was kind of, you know, difficult at first, but to me it's a little bit harder, you know, because no one else has got this, you know, it's your own songs, you know, so to me it's a little bit more difficult than what I've done before, you know, but I like it because it's not, like I said, it just, you know, it fits what I like to play, you know what I'm saying?
I think it was a lesson in just adaptability. I think to a certain degree, we had to essentially start over with a new person, and we had to just adapt to that situation. And it did kind of change the live dynamic. It changed the sound a little bit, and I would say it was a positive thing in the end, just because we learned a lot about how to play and how to adapt in that way.
Yeah, we lost our horn player last summer. Pete was our sax guy. He moved to Colorado.
Me and Pete would hang out a lot in Chicago because he was living in Chicago too. So even nights when the rest of the guys weren't around, I'd be hanging with Pete, and I started to get the feeling that like he and his girlfriend were planning on making some kind of move or change. So when it came, I think everybody was like, "Oh, kind of knew that was coming a little bit," but we weren't sure.
You know, one of the guitars had to kind of fill in that role where Pete would play lines and sort of fill, you know, that was sort of our accent to the sound, so the guitars had to kind of step in and kind of fill those roles.
And there's certain songs we've retired now that Pete's gone. There's a couple of them that are just, they're Pete songs, and we don't really play them live anymore. And there'd be a certain melancholy that wouldn't be there in the way that it should.
You know, he had quite a big role, you know, in Cousin Dud, and I mean, you know, playing the sax, and, you know, he did a little bit of percussions also, like in the recordings and stuff. Live, he would do a little bit of tambourine and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, you know, you hear the difference, definitely hear the difference a little bit without, you know, the sax. I mean, especially like, you know, older songs that, you know, they already had, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, it's been hard, you know, but, I mean, we manage, you know, just fine.
If we ever find, I'm going to look at the camera for this, if we ever find the right keyboard player, piano player, you can fill in those parts for us.
I actually think now that there's kind of a little more room for the guitars to work. With the drummer, we needed to fill it in quick, but yeah, the horn, it was kind of a flavoring thing, and we miss them, you know, but I said there's room now for the guitars to do things that we weren't doing before.
I mean, I was heartbroken when both of them left. You know, not only were they band members, but we were all good friends, and, you know, you hate to see somebody leave, but Pete was just back in town like a week ago. We all hung out. It was fun, and we've seen Ben a couple times. Ben's down in Austin now, living the life. He's got another band down there. Life took him in different directions, and you got to take it, you know?
You know, I think we evolved. we've evolved every step of the way with every change that's happened.
Is it possible to get more bass without getting that fuzz? Because I'm like just like really, really soft.
I think you might need to get a
Play
new
it?
bass.
New bass? No, I
Get
don't
rid
think
of
so.
Get rid of that Lakeland, dude. Get a real bass.
Play the bass.
I'm still
We do
fuzzy
not need
on it.
any more bass than that.
Good. Well, I can.
When the drums and everything's going, I'm not even gonna be able to hear it.
Well, I can.
We can try.
I
Whatever.
can boost you in the EQ.
We've definitely been taking it in the steps of the electric guitar solo these days. You know, I mean, from going from acoustic and stuff to a full band kind of electric sound. I think it was kind of coming. You know. It's getting more and more rockin' these days, but still keeping the real kind of lyrically driven songs. You know, it's always about the lyrics, even though it does have more guitar solos and stuff like that these days. You know, definitely trying to serve the song, you know, as much as we can.
We would do these kind of all-day practice sessions, all-day recording sessions. We were just doing it on our own with, 4 tracks and 8 tracks and learning how to use equipment, locking ourselves. Ben had a little cottage out in the woods. These would be like 2-day sessions of just making music, partying, recording, and trying to get an album done and really not knowing what we were doing on the technical end of it. We've gotten a little more studio-minded. Just over the course of it, we didn't know what we were doing at first, and we were just putting everything down, recording it all, and trying to piece it together.
We're doing some things different here, like more layering and sort of maybe thinking outside the box more, getting a little weirder, trying to make it, sort of interesting sounds and different layering, I think. Try to add more to that so you don't sound like the same thing over and over.
No, that's too slow. Let's do, try 95.
We go into the studio with an idea, and we get it done a lot quicker. We have Craig. And just that, I would say that. That's the general. And there's that part of the dynamic, the throwing stuff at each other in important moments. In interview situations.
I think we're definitely a little more rehearsed and stuff these days, but it just rocks a lot more, which is nice for me. It's nice to be able to kind of step back and it's not just strum an acoustic guitar. Like we can shred a bit.
Playing now, I feel like that's Cousin Dud, you know what I'm saying? And it's really kind of, you listen to our last album, there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's what I like about Cousin Dud, it's rock, but there's certain little things, that little beats or songs that are, a little bit different than, what you would normally, assess with rock or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But I like the direction we're in now, the keeping the electric rock stuff going. I like it.
All I hope for at this point is to just keep making great albums that hopefully impact some people. I don't have many illusions about, the music business and making it big and any of that, because everybody and their brother's got a band. We have that song Bands that's about that, everybody's recording in their basement. And any given night you can go out in Chicago and see 15 different bands. I like to think that we're a step above in some way. I just want to keep making great albums. And hopefully it'll mean something to someone,
These
Shaky
things
hands equals vibrato.
Nobody could ever quite figure out how he did it.
What's that pedal? That's no pedal, my friend. That's years of insecurity built up by a loving father.
Yeah, I think that's it. That was awesome.
We did House of Blues a few months ago, earlier this year. That was a really cool room. You know, it was kind of something different. You know, I mean, to do House of Blues in Chicago was pretty cool. You know, and I guess just something interesting for me. You know, I mean, I'm from Woodstock. I'm a country boy. I'm not used to the city. I'm not used to Chicago. So, you know, every time we got gigs out there, it's like trying to find parking for me. Oh, man, it's a nightmare, dude. Sometimes I have to get Dan. You know, hey Dan. I have to call.
Parallel parks these
Yes. You know, he's from Chicago, you know. So anyway, going back to this House of Blues gig, you know, I guess the cool thing for me, I'm not used to, is we get there and there's valet parking, so I didn't have to worry about it. So, you know, it's like somebody comes, takes your car for you. Sweet, I could do this. So that's my interesting story of the House of Blues gig, yeah.
Like, what's one of the biggest things that you guys give each other shit for?
Anything, man. It's like, it's ruthless. Like, if you, like, you can't mess up. If you spell a word wrong, you're going to hear it. But yeah, no, we just like to give each other a hard time. And
A lot of Facebook copy editing goes on.
yeah, yeah. But now that Pete's gone, nobody really spells words wrong anymore.